I stood in front of my bathroom mirror at 2 a.m., wearing a red dress I'd hidden in the back of my closet for 3 months. My hands were shaking. Because in 12 hours, I was supposed to teach Sunday school, but tonight? Tonight I was about to become someone I never thought I could be. You start to forget who you actually are underneath all those expectations. Someone my church would never recognize. Someone I didn't even recognize. And for the first time in my life, I read about a woman who wasn't broken for wanting to feel beautiful. For wanting to feel desired. For wanting to take up space unapologetically. For 37 years, I lived in a box. A perfectly constructed, suffocating box made of shoulds and shouldn'ts. I was the good girl. The church pianist. The woman who brought casseroles to every potluck and never missed a prayer meeting. Who knew? How I smiled at myself in windows. How I stopped apologizing for taking up space in line at the coffee shop. I wore cardigans in July and apologized for taking up space in rooms I belonged in. But here's what nobody tells you about being the good girl your entire life. It was gradual, like watching a flower bloom in time-lapse. I started dancing in my kitchen while making dinner. I bought perfume. I learned to do my makeup from YouTube tutorials, fumbling with brushes like a teenager. I wore it to the grocery store and the teenage cashier said, "I love your lipstick." Belly dancing. Maria, she looked at each of us and said, "This isn't about being sexy for someone else. This is about connecting with the powerful, creative energy that lives in your body." The way I stopped shrinking in conversations. Some loved it. In Genesis, it says God created humans in his image. You look beautiful. You look happy. Like, really happy. I've never seen you look this comfortable with yourself. Male and female, he created them. And then he said it was very good. Not shameful. Not something to hide. Maybe it's time to come home to yourself. Maybe it's time to stop asking permission to be beautiful, to be confident, to be fully alive. Very good. Others, what if honoring the body God gave me wasn't rebellion? What if it was worship? Didn't. This is about coming home to yourself. I'm still the same woman who loves God, who serves at church, who brings casseroles to potlucks. But now I also dance in my kitchen. I wear lipstick to the grocery store. I take up space without apologizing. Confidence and self-love for the first time. What kind of example had I been setting before? Maybe the most sacred thing you can do is fully become yourself. Maybe hiding your light isn't humility, it's actually the opposite. I think this is who I was always meant to be. Not despite my faith, but because of it. I know, the church lady doing belly dance. The irony wasn't lost on me. Nobody had complimented my appearance in. I couldn't even remember how long. It started with a book. Sounds innocent enough, right? I was organizing the church library when I found it wedged behind a stack of devotionals. Wondering if I was having a crisis of faith or finally finding my faith. Week by week, I was becoming who I'd always been underneath all those layers of should. I started to understand something revolutionary. Sensuality isn't about sex. It's about being fully alive in your own skin. Henderson pulled me aside after service one Sunday. "You're looking very different lately, dear. I hope everything's alright at home." It's about tasting your food, feeling the sun on your face, moving your body with joy instead of apology. Was I being selfish? Was I destroying everything I'd built? Embracing your divine feminine, probably donated by mistake. I should have put it in the discard pile. Instead, I slipped it into my purse like I was stealing government secrets. That night, I read it cover to cover. I cried. God, I cried so hard because I realized I'd been living like I was apologizing for existing. The next morning at church, Pastor Williams was talking about modest dress and humble hearts, and I sat there thinking, what if humility isn't about making yourself smaller? What if it's about being honestly, authentically you? But then the guilt hit. Wave after wave of it. Was I being sinful? Was I dishonoring God? Was I having some kind of midlife crisis? I started small. I bought a lipstick. Coral Sunset, I still remember the name. Then I bought a dress. Not scandalous, just fitted. It showed my waist. I had a waist. My husband didn't notice. He was too busy watching the game. But I noticed. I noticed how I stood taller. The transformation wasn't overnight. But the real shift happened when I joined a dance class. The first class, I stood in the back corner, convinced everyone could see my shame. But our instructor, coming home to myself. Those words hit me like lightning. And slowly, I wasn't becoming someone else. But here's where it gets complicated. The people at church started to notice. The new clothes, the confidence, Mrs. Was I wrong? I spent sleepless nights wrestling with these questions. Praying about it. Crying about it. Then it hit me. What if? The breaking point came at my daughter's wedding. I was helping her get ready, and she looked at me and said, "Mom," and I realized, my daughter was seeing me embrace joy, 6 months later, and you know what? Because maybe, So to every woman watching this who feels like she's been playing small, who's been apologizing for existing, maybe it's time to remember that you were made very good. And that's not something to apologize for. That's something to celebrate. What would happen if you stopped apologizing for being you?